Okay. I don't know how to do any of this stuff. I'm just gonna friggin' how do you? I hope I'm in focus. If I'm not, I apologize. I just have to get started, which is the whole point of what I'm doing right now. I wanted to start a YouTube channel because I like to paint, and I've been painting in oils now for less than a year, and I really like it. So I wanted to start and record my journey and my learning. I'm self-taught. I'm learning everything. I'm learning on the internet. I'm learning on YouTube. So I wanted to share that and keep myself accountable, make myself have to have a schedule, and make myself work, because you can't get anywhere if you don't put in the work. And that's it. That's all I have to say. Hopefully you enjoy this video of me painting some dude that I found on Pinterest. It's really good hair. So I'm picking this one up after about a month or two of just not working on it for no real good reason. Just, I don't know. I think it's because I wanted to start this YouTube channel and I got cold feet and I had to just force myself to start, which is why I'm starting with a half-finished painting. And I'm setting up my palette because all my paint was dried up, and the stuff in the bottom left there, the flesh tone, that's just dried up flesh tone that I kept so that I could remix it. And this is me just grabbing colors that I remembered using and trying to see, honestly, looking with my bestest eye, what I have mixed, what is too strong, what needs to be neutralized, grabbing the opposite color, you know, if it's too blue, trying to even that out, if it's too yellow, you know, and get back to those base colors. But something that I have learned through painting is that skin tone isn't, when you paint it, it's not flesh tones. You mixing a skin color, it's not really about like a foundation, you know what I'm talking about. People that wear makeup, we're not mixing foundation colors. I didn't try to match this guy's CoverGirl foundation. I tried to be honest with what I'm looking at, isolate a small piece at a time. What color is that? That's why some of his face is sort of ruddy, like his cheeks are more pink and peachy. The nose is more of a pale color. And for that, you need to mix in pinks and reds and blues and yellows. So that's what I was doing. I did make sort of a base color, but from there, I build shadows I add more of a blue. I build, he has actually a warm side of his face and a cool side of his face. So you have to really look and pay attention to what you're actually seeing in the moment when you are looking at a portrait and you're trying to paint the skin tone. Because if you just try and match what looks like a skin tone on your palette, you're not going to get any depth, you're not going to get any light, you're not going to get any reality. And these are all Gamblin brand oil paints in mediums, by the way. I just stuck with that brand because I read that it was one of the least toxic. So for safety's sake, I went with that one. So what I'm working on right now is actually my third portrait. And I'm going to show you guys my first and second oil paintings of people. So this one was my first, and I'm pretty proud of it. For a first attempt, I'm pretty proud of it. Oil is not my first medium, but I like it the most of everything that I've tried. And she feels kind of flat to me, but still I'm happy with her. And this was my second, and this is Cassian Andor from the TV show Andor. And this one really taught me that skin tone is not skin tone when you paint it. That's not what it is. This was just oranges and blues. That's what his face is. It's oranges, the orange from my palette and the blues from my palette. And it's wild to me that looks like when you have it all plugged in, when you have all the blank and negative space filled in, your brain says, yeah, that's a face. But when you're painting it, it doesn't. When you first start out and you put that orange down on the canvas, it doesn't look like skin tone, and you think, that's not right. But you got to trust the process. So that's what I'm trying to do here. And I'll show you guys a little bit of, before I got to this point, a little bit of the early work on this guy. So this is my reference. This is just a portrait from, I think it's a movie still. I got it from Pinterest. I chose it because I really like the expression he's making. It's not like your classic 3/4. It's not your classic straight on. It's sort of like he's actually making an expression. He's not really posing. And obviously he's very striking. He's got those blue eyes, but the part to me that stood out the most is the fact that the lighting is really interesting. I don't like to do portraits where the lighting is flat or, very basic. I like to have strong contrast. I like to have bright colors,
or something that really grabs your eye, because you can't have that in your final piece unless you have that in your reference. So to get started on this one, first I got a piece of sketch paper that was the same size as the final gessoed board that I was going to paint on. I sketched them out after I gridded the piece of paper up. It just makes it easier for me to get proportions right. I sketched them out, and then I used the graphite transfer method, which is basically you just rub a bunch of pencil on the back of your sketch, and then you trace it so that you can mash all your lines into your final piece. And then I just kind of went for it. I did my best to, again, really see the colors in the reference, really see the way the colors relate to each other, if there's a warmer or a cooler, you know, really paying attention to that, and then just refining. And as far as, you know, the technical aspect of painting, what mediums to use, I'm still learning that stuff. I'm learning so much, and I'm actually learning video editing as I go, so apologies for any crazy cuts. This whole thing is just a learning process. But I'm happy with the progress that I made in this one. It really felt good while I was working on it. That's not always the case. You know what I mean. And this one really felt like I was progressing. So I've been talking about everything that I did before I started recording the video. But a couple of things that I wanted to mention. I'm using some brushes that are new. They were actually a Christmas gift from my brother. They are the Rosemary & Co. Andrew Tischler set. So this is a dagger. And it's there's another learning curve. Everything is a learning curve for me, for everything that you're having a look at right now, all of it. But these brushes are really cool, and the dagger was neat because you could do a wide stroke or you can do a fine point like I'm doing here. But they were especially handy for the hair, because hair is a super organic shape, and his was especially wind blown and tousled, and it just worked really well to be able to use a brush that could thick and thin. Just really impressed with these brushes. And for this part, I'm just building up shadow and highlight, and you don't want to just go black to white. There's some kind of a super muted purple in his hair, sort of a mauve color. There's some creamy tones in his hair. There's a little bit of blue in some of the highlights. There's some browns and some grays in the darker parts. So you really, again, I can't stress that enough. Color and shape, obviously, but color can really convey depth and light and shapes and movement, which is why, going back to a point I made earlier, you really want your reference to have a lot of life to it, because you're not going to have that in your final piece unless you can pull from what you're looking at. And here I'm just refining. I'm adding a little bit of highlights here and there and seeing what needs a little bit of work, what needs a little bit of depth. I went over the eyes a little bit and tried to make them darker. In the reference, his eyes are super dark, and I don't think I really got that in the final piece, but it looks good. It's just not as dark as I'd wanted it. I think I chickened out a little bit. But here I'm just refining the eyes and kind of giving them life. I don't usually put a highlight on the eye, but if it's in the reference, I'll put it. But I sometimes think that can look a little cartoony, but the lighting in this scene was so sharp and clear and bright that he had a pretty good definition of shadow and light and highlights. So they look natural instead of looking like a phony, overdone effect. To me, they look pretty natural by the time I'm finished adding all the highlights. Oh, and here I overworked the eye because there were dried layers underneath of the layers I was working on. So, this is hard for me to watch. It ends up looking okay by the time I'm done, but this was a panic moment for sure. And I went ahead and kept it in because I wanted to show that I don't know what I'm doing yet. Hopefully someday I'll know better than to do what I did. But for this one, I glossed over a lot of it. I cut a lot of the scrambling out, but I really screwed up and I did not know how to fix it. Eventually it worked out, but I liked it better before I added all that mess to it. It's okay now, but I liked it better before. And now the final touches to his face, the little highlights, which I would not add until the very end. It's super tempting to add them earlier, but it's smart to wait and hold off on those because they are white blobs in the middle of all that color, and if you blur them, you're screwed. And now I'm gonna bust out my iPad because I need to figure out what to do with his shirt. I really liked all the white and the almost black contrast in this one, but I wanted to be sure that I didn't want to use the blue shirt of the inspiration photo of the reference. I didn't want there to be too much blue. I really liked that just his eyes were blue. So I colored his shirt a little bit in Procreate. I played with that. And I realized I just like it white. So I got a new palette so that there would be no mussing my paint with any other paints. I got a new brush. I squirted some titanium white in there and just painted his shirt a flat white. I really like to draw and paint where the clothing is flat. It's part, honestly, laziness, because I don't like painting folds in cloth. I don't. But also, I think it really adds a lot of kind of a creative look to it when the clothing is just sort of inferred, is that the right word? And the face and the skin, I feel like, have more life to them by contrast. And so I really loved the way the white turned out. I loved it. And now I'm signing it. I loved it so much I signed it. So that's my third painting done. And it felt pretty good to finally finish this one after, I think, 2 months of not working on it. It was a battle, but here he is. Look at him. Look at him. Look at my guy. I'm pretty proud of this one. And I'm sitting here right now voicing the voiceover, which means that I'm almost done doing the video, which means I'm about to upload this to YouTube for my first oil video. And you guys, honest to God, if you made it this far, thank you so much. This is a dream of mine to get a YouTube channel going, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and hopefully you'll subscribe and stick around and see the next one. Thank you so much. Bye.